What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk a bit about Mafia: The Old Country. So I just finished playing it. It's around 12. It took me around 12 hours to finish, and I just want to give some of my thoughts about the pros and the cons, and if you should buy the game or not. So let's start with the pros. So the visuals, they're fantastic. So the cobblestone roads and the Italian vineyards and the buildings really sell kind of that 1900 vibe, and especially when you go into the city regions like San Celeste, it just really, the attention to detail is fantastic. So the visuals really do give an A plus, and the old-fashioned cars that you drive around, it's really, yeah, like period accurate, and it really just brings the Mafia world to life. And I will say the driving is a lot faster in Mafia: The Old Country compared to Mafia Definitive Edition. Like in Mafia Definitive Edition, I remember that it would take a long time to get up to speed. Now the cars, they're very much faster, and they're way more engaging and fun to drive. So that is a big A plus for me. For the visuals and kind of the car designs, it's great. Now, another really big plus is the motion capture. So the motion capture in this game is phenomenal. It's the cutscenes, you see the actors and all their emotions and their voice acting, and it's fantastic. It really sells when there's a tense moment, like when there's a meeting, when they're talking to each other in about a serious topic. It's just you can feel the emotion inside, like through the screen. It's really good. That is a really big plus. The motion capture and the cutscenes is pretty much the kind of the pinnacle of what Mafia is known for. Now, for the story, I will say I'll get to the very controversial ending at the moment, but for the story overall, it's for me, it's definitely because I like the previous Mafia game, so it's definitely a plus for me. I like how, you do all those missions, you kind of work from the bottom to the top. Enzo starts at the mines, and he's at the very, very bottom, and he gets picked up by the Don Torrisi, and he moves up in the world. And I really like a story like that, but I can see how people wouldn't like a story that is very kind of cliched, maybe. If you didn't like previous Mafia stories, then you definitely wouldn't like this one. But if you are a Mafia fan and you do like the previous Mafia stories, then this story definitely will resonate with you. Now, let's move on to the cons. So, a very big con is the gunplay. Now, I will say I am not the best shooter, but I just feel like the gunplay is very cumbersome, like, and tedious. Like, in most Mafia games, the focus isn't on the gunplay, I would suppose. It's more on the story. But there's a lot of swaying in the gunplay. Like, I know I'd be missing my shots, but I feel like the swaying is really impacting how I shoot and the shots I should be getting. But yeah, there's a lot of swaying in the gunplay, and I feel like the gun variety isn't very much different. Like the handling of the guns don't feel very different. So basically, you'll have one close range, which is the shotgun, one long range, which is the rifle, and then a single hand gun, which is the pistol. And there's different types of it, but it's pretty much the same feel. There isn't really much like other varieties of guns that you use. So there's only pretty much three, and you get a lot of subsections for each gun type. And it's usually a change in the cosmetic of the gun. The enemy AI, that is quite a big issue in this game. The enemies, they are definitely more aggressive than previous Mafia games, but I feel like they are not the smartest AI. Like they kind of run towards you and they have their guns and they're reloading and they go like, yeah, I'm reloading, I'm reloading. And then they're reloading while walking to you and then you just blast them in the face. If the AI isn't that great, they kind of just, to pad it and make it seem like harder, they trying to swarm you with the with more people and yeah, that's mainly I feel like how people will die, is not because of the smart AI but kind of just a lot of them and swarming you at once. They also introduced a new knife dueling mechanic. So at the start of the game, pretty much near the start of the game, you'll fight one of the mine guards. So the patrol leader that that guards your mine. And you'll pick up a knife and you'll duel him. But I feel like the knife fights are kind of just they're very repetitive. Like there's only two moves, like a slash, a thrust, and like a break to break their guard, and then a parry and a dodge as well. Like it's just very basic. And then throughout the game, you do this very big standoff with these major enemies throughout the story, and you'll duel them. But I feel like it's like they just kind of threw it in as an afterthought. Like, oh, okay, we need to introduce something new to differentiate this game from other Mafia games, and then they just threw in that knife fighting mechanic to kind of say that, oh, okay, we got something new that it wasn't introduced in previous games. And I kind of felt that it was just kind of more of an afterthought than a truly well thought out mechanic. So after basically the first few enemies that you duel with the knives, it's very easy, and then as you get up to the end of the story, obviously the duels become harder. They're more agile. They'll parry you more. They'll have chained combos. But it's all fairly easy and fairly, I'd say, repetitive and kind of boring. I'd say another thing that is kind of not the best is outside the main story, there isn't really any side quest for you to do. There's no side quests. At least I didn't see any, or there wasn't really a prompt to go like, okay, why don't you go meet this person to talk about side quests or something like that. I do get that this game is a linear title. However, I feel like there's a lot of linear titles that do give you some sort of flexibility and have some sort of side thing that you do outside. I do know that they are introducing a free roam update, so hopefully that changes it. But I feel like other than beelining the main story, there isn't really much else to do, which makes finishing the story really quick. I actually took my time, and 12 hours is actually considered, I feel like, quite long. I've heard a lot of people online, they've finished the game in like 9 hours, like 9 to 10 hours. And yeah, just kind of the lack of side quests. Another big one is the performance. And oh boy, the performance is not the best. It is an Unreal Engine 5 game, but when the PC specs sheets came out, I feel like there was just, when people saw it and they realized that there was upscaling that needs to be implemented when playing at a certain, at pretty much all the presets, you have to turn DLSS or FSR or XeSS on. I just felt like that was a big red flag. And while playing the game, yes, the performance is quite not the best. It's quite bad. I have a pretty beefy PC, so I have a 4090 GPU, and it is very CPU intensive as well. So you probably should have a pretty beefy CPU as well. Usually my PC is able to run games perfectly. Like usually even intense titles usually has no problem. at running it at high FPS without upscaling. This game requires me to be at performance DLSS and frame generation to even hit that 60 FPS mark. If it doesn't have frame generation, it's dipping below 60 FPS, which is kind of concerning. So I definitely feel like performance was a little bit suffering in this game. But overall, it's nothing game breaking. There's no any like crashes or anything. It's just that, yeah, you might need to turn some settings down. So that was a little bit of a con for me. Now, I'm gonna get into spoilers now. I'm gonna get into spoilers. Just big warning, red flag, spoilers, spoilers. Cool. All right. So you had your warning. The ending. Now, this has had kind of caused an uproar. The ending is pretty bad. So essentially, you follow Enzo, and he's been picked up from the bottom in the mines by Don Torrisi, and he becomes really close with him, and he takes him under his wing, and he does all his dirty work and killing people and assassinating people, stealing stuff from the other gangs, and eventually killing the boss of the other gangs. And in the end, and throughout all this, he is having a relationship with the Don's daughter, Isabel. So from the start, I already knew that their relationship wasn't going to end well, and I was right; it wasn't going to end well. However, I felt like it ended it like really just underwhelmingly. So basically, Isabel's dad finds out that Enzo's been dating and been seeing his daughter, and he gets really angry because he wants his daughter to marry someone else that he prefers, and so Enzo is and Isabel are ready to travel off to America and find a new life and get the hell out of there. And they get arrested at the train station. And then near the ending sequence, it's just Enzo trying to find Isabel and get the hell out of there. And in the end, he fights Don Torrisi. So there's a big knife fight. And obviously, Don Torrisi is giving it his all. Fighting. And then you end up defeating Don Torrisi. Cool. Now you think that it's going to be a happy ending, and then Cesare, that you defeated earlier, in that you kind of disarmed, you didn't kill him, but you disarmed and defeated earlier before fighting Don Torrisi, comes back and kind of lends his support and goes like, okay, you've defeated me and you've killed the Don. Let's be good friends now. He gives the impression like that. He gives out his hand, and he gives the impressions. He gives an impression that he's going to do that. But then they hug, and Cesare just stabs him out of nowhere and kills him. So he's gone through all this struggle, and he's defeated the big boss, Don Torrisi. He's defeated him, stabbed him, killed him, and he's gone through all this, and it feels like it's just been for nothing, because Cesare just kind of baited him in and killed him. So I just felt like the ending was, because of that, is very bad, and it kind of just it leaves the game on a sour note that I just can't get over. In the end, Isabel does manage to find her way out and find a new life for herself. However, I felt like Enzo could have been kind of gone out in a more dignifying way. However, that was just not the case, and that kind of just left the game, left a bit of a sour note in the end. So do I think the game is worth 90 AUD? So it is a full price game, and I think it's worth it for a certain audience. If you're into the Mafia games or the previous Mafia series, then I think this is going to scratch that itch. And it does introduce something new, but it doesn't really add that much, but it's still something new, I guess. But If you are someone that's more on the fence, I would say wait for a sale, maybe a 20-30% sale, and then give it a try. And if you're someone that has tried Mafia games and just didn't like it at all, then this is not going to change your mind. And yeah, overall, I would probably rate this game maybe at around a 6.5 to a 7. And that is factoring all the pros and cons, and definitely the ending, and definitely the price tag. If this was more like a 40 or $50 AUD game, let's say $60, let's be more generous and give it a $60 AUD game, I wouldn't think it'd be as harsh. But since this is a full price game, people are going to see and say that there are better options out there with more interactive gameplay and just as good of a story. For example, let's say Black Myth Wukong or something like that. That would be a better purchase than an interactive movie experience some people might classify this game as. Now, if you like reviews like this, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.